Welcome back to the second learning objective, where we are going to discuss health concerns of two vulnerable populations: homeless population and migrant workers. So, starting with the homeless population, approximately 3.5 million Americans are homeless annually at different times of the year. And this includes about 3.5 million children, which is quite worrying. In 2011, it's estimated that 1 in 20 people in the US have experienced homelessness in either transient or chronically. So, the geographical distribution of homelessness in the US is that 59% of them happens in the urban areas, while 41% of them is happening in suburban or rural areas. Men are more likely to experience homelessness than women, with 61% of homeless individuals being male and 39 being female. There are also quite a lot of children under the age of 18 that experience homelessness, 19% of that. 30% of individuals experiencing homelessness are families that have children, and 8% are veterans. So there are a number of concerns that are specific to homeless individuals in the US. The first is that typically experience high prevalence of untreated acute and chronic conditions. So it's not just infectious diseases, but they're also having to deal with chronic conditions as well, in addition to substance abuse challenges. They are also at a greater risk of assault and victimization. This is regardless whether they are in shelters or they are outdoors. So, some of the social determinants of health that plays into homelessness in the U.S. includes economic stability. Um, those who are at risk of homelessness uh, typically very low income, or they are experiencing unemployment. The lack of affordable housing is also a challenge with even when some people who are low income and do have some form of government assistance housing, they may not be landlords or renters that are willing to accept that. So it's not just about whether they are affordable. It's not just whether they are housings that are affordable that they can pay for, but you know those who are paying for it through government assistance may have challenges finding renters that are willing to accept that. So that becomes quite of a challenge. And education is also a social determinant of health. With the less education you have, the fewer your job opportunities, and also the um, fewer your skills, which not only means that there's not a lot of job opportunities, but also in a situation whereby you do get a job, you are at a greater risk of being the first person to be let go, should there be any economic downtime at that job. A couple of social determinants of health that comes from healthcare services will include barrier to care, because they don't have addresses. You typically having problems with being able to communicate with healthcare providers, or your healthcare provider being able to communicate with you. Or also not being able to pay cell phone services, so that you may not be able to get on telemedicine, or even be able to access my chat, for example. And then they also have challenges of untreated mental health, and not being able to afford to pay for their own rehabilitation if they wanted to get clean, or stuff like that. Environment also is, and this is regardless whether you're in a shelter, you're outdoors. They're typically in places that are unsafe neighborhoods, and they do experience a number of challenges, including issues transportation issues and all of that. And there are not a lot of shelters. Those there are most many shelters prioritize women and children. There's just not enough shelters to cater for all the families with young children that need that. And then family social context like family conflict also compounds the challenges of homelessness, not just in the sense that it increases one risk of being homeless, but it can increases the risk in the sense that you may not have somewhere to stay if because of the conflict, but also if you're having challenges mentally, the family conflict can exacerbate that and may be a source of isolation or trauma for you. The impact of all of these social determinants of health on homelessness is that it increases their risk of chronic conditions, exacerbates mental illnesses, and also there's a higher likelihood that people who are experiencing homelessness are going to delay accessing healthcare. Whether it is available or whether it's not available. Sometimes you may have it available, but the stigma that they are homeless may, deter them from seeking help. There are a couple of federal funding or federal programs available for those who are experiencing homelessness to access some form of assistance. One is the Healthcare for Homeless program. The other is the a mental health service for homeless block grant. They also have the VA also offering tailored healthcare services for homeless veterans. So the services are available, they exist. It's just a lot of the times people who are experiencing homelessness may not have access to that, or there's not enough funding to be able to provide assistance for everybody who needs that. Then, focusing on migrant workers, they are primarily farm laborers who travel long distance to come work on farms, but they also, a lot of migrant workers also work in factories, and some of the times seasonal for the both, whether it is farm labor or whether it's factory. Some of the times the job is seasonal and it's not permanent. For farm laborers, it depends on what crop the farmers are growing. So sometimes the crops are in season and they have to do that. But then when the crop is not in season, migrant workers move to a different farm that is that where the crop that they are growing is in season. So there's not a lot of permanence in terms of employment for them. So their transient lifestyle also results in limited access to stable housing or healthcare services. Imagine a situation where a migrant worker that has children and is living in an area that the children can go to school, but during summer when the schools are out, they may not want to stay there because maybe they have to go to a different farm where there's work that is available there, and the farm where they are that is near the school is not available. They may want to move to where the farm is, and there's no reason to keep paying rent for a house that they're not going to live in for like 2 to 3 months, so they have to leave. But that also means that even if when school resumes and they move back, that apartment may not be available for them. So they may have to go start looking for another job, which makes it difficult in terms of, healthcare services and being able to find housing. The few key concerns that is related to migrant workers. One is occupational injuries, because they're working a lot with their hands and being on their feet a lot. There's a lot of strain that happens on the body, but also the risk of having machinery accidents or falling. They are also very likely to be exposed to harsh chemicals or hazardous chemicals, which increases their risk of having respiratory issues or having skin conditions that can significantly reduce their quality of life. They are also at risk of muscular skeletal disorders due to the repetitive and typically very physically demanding labor. Mental health is also a challenge in terms of a lot of the times there's anxiety in terms of not knowing when job will be available, not knowing for how long will be available. There could also be potential of depression also as a result, but they also risk isolation and family separation. They may not be able to move as a family to wherever the job is. If it's a family with children, they may have to send their children in a different place from where they are going because the new job does not have opportunity to also pay the children, and so a lot of the times they may consider sending the children to a different place to work while they themselves go to a different place to work. So it can be a source of some mental health challenges for them. There's also limited access to healthcare. Part of it comes with language. Maybe English is not their first language, or some perception of maybe they will not be able to understand the providers, or the healthcare providers are not going to be able to understand them. So that creates a challenge. There's also likelihood that they don't have any employment that is coming from any insurance that is coming from their employer. And for those who are not legally in the US, they may not be able to purchase their own insurance, meaning that they will have to pay out of pocket for health services, which could be a challenge if they cannot afford it, or because of the fear of deportation, they do not go did not interact with healthcare providers because they are afraid that if they go to seek help, they may have immigration called on them. So all of this creates a barrier to healthcare access for them. So some of the social determinants of health that exacerbate and also leads into migrant workers includes, economic stability. They usually have very low wages for migrant workers where they work, and their jobs are, seasonal for depend, especially for those who are working in crop farms. And if there's any infection with the crops or with the livestock, they could also be out of work as a result. And there's a lot of also financial insecurity for them. Working conditions are usually very poor, and there's little to no labor protection. They're also, having to face sometimes extreme weather. Either they're in the factories that are poorly ventilated, or in factories that very few effort was being made to keep it warm or to keep it cool. So their living conditions is also very crowded. Sometimes it's not because there's unavailable house, but sometimes they want to live close to where they work, and there may not be many options for good housing that is close to where they work, and it may be difficult to have to travel long distance in order to go to work, because it probably starting work very early and ending up very late, so it becomes quite a challenge. So they may find themselves living around the same area, which could lead to overcrowdedness. Living in the same area because it's more convenient to go to work and come back from work, but also having all of these challenges. And living close to work may also mean that they have it's an unsanitary place that doesn't have good access to clean water or sanitation. And similar to what is experienced by homeless population that are experiencing homelessness, is there is the isolation, there's discrimination, and there's family separation. But they also have a challenge with social support. Some of the times they're coming from countries that may be very far away, and everybody that they know in terms of family members will be back in their home countries, and they're in a new country where they don't speak the primary language of it. So that could, cause a lot of they would lose social network as a result of migrating. There are a couple of housing support that is available for migrant workers. It's not a lot, but it's still there. The HRSA's Migrant Health Program provides some health services, but the challenge still is still a challenge in the sense that, like I said, migrant workers are transient and they're moving from location to location. So maybe one of the locations that they are, there will be this migrant health program available. The next location that they go to, it wouldn't be available. So the supports technically exist. Their access to it may be spotty. There are a couple of state programs that are also available, that different states are providing, but this varies from state to state. So some states may have better programs or with more benefits than others. So it's spotty in that sense. So this table kind of compares the experiences of homeless population and migrant workers, looking at it in terms of housing stability, because they are similarly experiencing some of the same challenges. Access to healthcare, for instance, is common in the sense of the things that migrant workers are experiencing are pretty common to what homeless populations are experiencing in terms of cost, in terms of stigma, in terms of transportation. And the social determinants of health is also quite similar in terms of poverty, unemployment, family crisis, and all of that. So you can just take a minute to kind of look at this table to see what's happening there. It is also possible that some migrant workers fit in with the homeless population. So imagine you are a migrant worker who is not able to find affordable housing. You may end up fitting in with the homeless population. So these two vulnerable populations are not, mutually exclusive. Some of the times they may interact with each other. So, what are some of the ways that we can improve the health outcomes for vulnerable populations? There are a couple of strategies. Some of them are great, but not necessarily being able to address everybody who fits in with this population. So, mobile clinics are one strategy that's been used for homeless population. It does help in the sense that it delivers healthcare to them. They don't have to go seeking where the health services or where the health providers are. The health providers come to them. So it also takes care of the problem of transportation. Integrated care models also work, particularly if it integrates substance abuse treatments with vulnerable populations, because, like I said, that is one of the challenges that some people experiencing homelessness have in the sense of substance abuse. So, healthcare services that integrate substance abuse as well as physical and mental services does help provide a more comprehensive service than where they just focus on physical health. There is the Housing First initiative that I provided the link here. You can go look at it. This initiative is all about trying to prioritize stable housing as a foundation for health. They are doing great work, but it's not something that is, service that is being provided to everybody across the United States. But it's a commendable initiative. So you guys can look at it, just kind of to know what it is and what they are aiming for. Some strategies for migrant workers is culturally competent care for those who are bilingual, being able to be provided by bilingual health care providers. Also, this is also where representativeness also works. If you have a community of migrant workers, but highly skilled migrant workers, that would also present a sense of not being othered. You see people that look like you see people that you believe would talk like you, and you feel more confident and more reassured that when you're talking to a healthcare provider, that they understand you and you understand them. So it's very important that we not just training healthcare providers to be culturally competent, but we are also employing people from diverse communities, including the migrant community, so that they are able to provide services to less skilled migrant workers. Mobile clinics also works very well for migrant workers. Like I said, their job situations can be quite temporary or transient, and they're moving from location to location. So, if they have to use a particular healthcare provider, it can be challenging for them when they have to move to a different location for work. So this is where mobile health clinics works really well for them, and they're able to deliver preventive and primary care. Health education that is also tailored towards occupational safety and occupational care is also very important, especially considering the higher risk of injuries and accidents that migrant workers face as a result of their work. So it's very important that these strategies either are designed specifically to achieve this or incorporate some aspect of it as part of their programs or part of the ways of reaching this population. So this is where we end with the second learning objective. Like I said, it was going to be brief since we spent a lot of time with the first learning objective. So we'll be back to finish up with the last learning objective. See you in a bit.